there may have to be a sacrificial lamb here. Waltz looks like he would probably be the first to go. Hegseth, they've already expended an awful lot of political capital on him, so he may hang on by the, by the fingernails. But we'll see how it develops.
Welcome to The Debrief, where we talk with the Washington Examiner's top journalists about the headlines they're covering and where the story is going next. I'm Sarah Bedford, and I'm here with managing editor Chris Irvine.
Hey.
Chris, Signalgate has been taking over Washington this past week. The Trump White House has had some interesting responses to it. How would you grade the Trump administration's handling of the fallout?
I would say the grade would be incomplete. Needs more work.
Yeah.
It's been quite jarring, I would say, and I think the thing that bothers me a lot is there's clear messaging that's kind of coming from the White House, which is push it back in the Atlantic. You talked about their war plans, and now you say attack plans. You don't even know what war plans are, and they're getting bogged down in these silly semantics that they shouldn't. What they should have done is they should have acknowledged the mistake, said it was a big screw up, and then we're working to fix it, and this will never happen again. That would have been the kind of bare minimum that they needed to do. But instead, none of them are on the same page. They're all coming out with kind of different spin on the story. Pete Hegseth, the defense secretary, his first reaction was to basically just discredit the journalist and kind of suggest that it never really happened, and his tune has changed. Tulsi Gabbard and John Ratcliffe weren't even on the same page during the intelligence hearing when Tulsi said, "I'm not at liberty to discuss this," and then John Ratcliffe was like, "Yeah, that was me in the chat." The only grown up in the whole thing I've seen so far was Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who was part of the chat, and he acknowledged it. He said it was a big mistake, and he sort of left it at that, which is the grown up response. President Trump's reaction, he wasn't in the group chat, but his has sort of been a little bit head in the sand. It's really been quite unimpressive, and you can say maybe for the first 2 months or so, the Trump administration's had done pretty well, has had a lot of success, implemented a lot of its agenda, or at least is trying to when courts aren't getting in the way. This is the first real scandal of this administration, and they've really screwed it up, I would say.
One of the people who hasn't had a particularly reassuring response is Mike Waltz, who is evidently, according to screenshots, the person who added Jeffrey Goldberg to the chat. And now there's, reports that he could be on the chopping block, or at least receiving a lot of scrutiny, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think Waltz has not handled it great. I think he did say, "I'll take responsibility for it," but then he has said, "We're looking into how this person got added, call me a conspiracy theorist." And the simplest thing is for me that he probably had this journalist in his contacts, maybe for a story from many, many years ago that he's commented on. Could even have been an on-the-record story, I don't know. But the most likely explanation is the person has been added by mistake by Waltz, or maybe by a staffer who set up the group. But it would strike me as being somewhat far-fetched that somebody nefarious has gone in and added them. That might well be the case. Perhaps I'm being really naive here. But I think that the most likely thing is that Waltz had this person in his phone. Now, he has not handled it great, but at the same time, Trump does seem to be showing some loyalty toward him. Who knows, by the time this video comes out, that might have changed.
Be different.
Well, yeah, you do have to kind of... Trump is quite loyal to his people at times, but one thing he doesn't like, obviously, is when the media narrative is going against him. And if there is a consistent drip of stories, there's been 2 from the Atlantic now, because they wouldn't let it lie on what the messages were. And then there was a couple more from the German outlet Der Spiegel and Wired magazine, showing that the data of Waltz, Hegseth, and Gabbard was all publicly available. Phone numbers, email addresses, passwords. It's not a great look. And if there continues to be that, and if the response continues to be so ham-fisted, then there may have to be a sacrificial lamb here. Waltz looks like he would probably be the first to go. Hegseth, they've already expended an awful lot of political capital on him, so he may hang on by the, by the fingernails. But we'll see how it develops.
What do you make of how congressional Republicans have reacted to this? Because you've had some, mild criticism from congressional Republicans. You have the Senate Armed Services Chair joining with the ranking Democrat to ask for an investigation. Do you think this puts congressional Republicans in an awkward position, or does Trump have enough political capital to get through this?
Yeah, well, look, I think Trump will certainly get through it. He wasn't in the chat, and
Right.
I do think he's probably feeling a bit blindsided by this. I think the congressional Republicans' response has been largely amateur, and I think we described it in a story as rhetorical gymnastics. There's an awful lot of whataboutism that Republicans do, and Democrats do it as well, but Republicans go back to Hillary Clinton's emails, and they go back to Hunter Biden and Lloyd Austin going MIA when he was getting an operation. Those things were bad, but so is this. All
Right.
these things can be bad at the same time. And for them to come out and say, oh, it wasn't classified, it wasn't war plans, we should all move on, and hey, look, the tone of the group chat was great. It shows that everybody's singing from the same hymn sheet. Like, I don't really care about that. What I care about is this journalist, was given access to something that he shouldn't have, and even if it wasn't officially classified information, it was clearly sensitive information that could have jeopardized a mission to take out the Houthis. And I'm waiting for someone to be the grown-up in the room and to say that. Roger Wicker calling for the DOD Inspector General to launch an investigation, I think, is the least that they can do. So at least they've done that.
Well, Chris, thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah.
You can get more reporting from Chris and the rest of the political team at washingtonexaminer.com.